Hi, everyone. We're back with the 2023 Hack Summit, and it's our privilege today to be joined by Amir Bandeali, who's the co-founder of the 0x protocol, as well as Stacey Elliott, who has graciously volunteered to interview Amir for us from Decrypt Media. Thank you very much for being here, both of you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Why don't you go ahead and take it away, and I will be rejoining at the end to help with any audience questions.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Stacey Elliott. I'm a senior writer at Decrypt. I also help co-host our podcast. And today I'm going to be, helping us get to hear a little bit more about OX and what OX Labs has been working on by interviewing Amir. Amir, do you want to quickly I figured it would be fun to start with just asking you, how are you feeling about DeFi right now?
I feel good, actually. Everything's kind of recovered quite a bit from the lows. Not just the markets, right? But in terms of actual adoption, seems that things are coming back. People are, ramping up their usage of DeFi, and I think the kind of overall thesis of DeFi has actually been really validated over the past year with all of these, large centralized failures.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier this week, and I think it is still true that there is still like a very sizable portion of volume that is moving on dexes relative to centralized exchanges. So, that's a big validation for the thesis really of DeFi.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So I want to quickly take a step back and just kind of ask you to walk us through your origin story for getting interested in DeFi and wanting to work in the space.
Sure. Well, yeah, it goes way back to my college days. Actually, I was playing kind of semi-professional poker in college online, and this was 2011 or 2012 when there was like a big shutdown of the major poker sites, and yeah, the short of it is I couldn't play anymore, and all of my money was gone. And was looking for new places to play, and discovered this Bitcoin poker site. That's the first time I had heard about it. Didn't really understand it at the time. I just knew like, okay, I could use this to play. But yeah, just over time, kind of fell down the rabbit hole as I like actually started to understand the technology. I graduated college by then. I joined a trading firm, Chopper Trading, which is later acquired by DRW, and was lucky enough to have a group of coworkers, and we all just got really, really absorbed in the space together and fell really deep down the rabbit hole. Discovered Ethereum a few years later, and I just knew as soon as I see it, like, okay, this solves for counterparty risk across all of finance. I had personally experienced the pain of losing money to a centralized entity from the poker incident, right? Really aligned with a lot of my views on the macro economy. I was trading treasuries, so pretty tapped into that, and decided that this thing, Ethereum's probably going to be like as big as the internet was, and decided I wanted to leave my job and work in it full time. Met my co-founder shortly after. He was in a somewhat similar situation, like doing a PhD program and falling deep down the rabbit hole, and decided to leave that and work in the space full time. And we kind of just hit it off. Started with a very different idea, but eventually saw a need for this standardized DEX layer in the ecosystem. Every project we were talking to at the time was building their own DEX. Like, they had some tokens associated with their protocols, and they needed those to be liquid, so they're all building their own DEX. And we were like, wait, this is like really redundant. Why isn't there just one DEX protocol? And yeah, decided to go for it and never look back.
Yeah, it's such an interesting problem to try to solve for in DeFi, which everyone's building their own thing, and fragmentation in the market has just been, a thing that needs a solution for a while now, it seems like. And I've also heard from a lot of people who said the thing that really validated the idea of DeFi for them was having worked in traditional finance. That's a lot of people's stories, is that working in TradFi made them realize we need something better. So I want to ask about Transaction Relay, the API, which is the big bit of news that you guys have had recently. Let's just start this way. Kind of give me a really high level explanation of what this is and what this is going to do for the space.
Yeah, maybe to just like back up a little bit for folks who aren't really familiar with our offerings. But yeah, so we have kind of three main components we're working on. We have a suite of APIs for developers to really reduce the complexity of accessing liquidity on DEXs. Our most popular API is the swap API, which aggregates liquidity across all the major DEXs. It's live on 8 different blockchains. TX Relay is it's very much an extension of that. So the current API, it is integrated into most of the major wallets and applications in the space. There's a good chance if you've made a trade anywhere in DeFi, you may have used 0x without really knowing about it. TX Relay was built because we're talking to a lot of potential customers coming into the space. They have like really large existing user bases, but they're not necessarily crypto native. They don't really understand the user experience quirks, and the first goal of TX Relay was to abstract away gas costs, essentially. So you can use TX Relay to make completely gasless swaps, no approvals, or no gas is required for approvals or anything like that when possible. And then the second goal of it is just to like really abstract away all the complexity that goes into execution of trades. Typically when a user is using a DEX today, they get the data and they're self-executing it in their wallet essentially, and that actually it can be very, very complex, especially during periods of high volatility. There are like different RPC providers you could use, like private mempools. You might have changed your gas prices like mid-transaction and stuff like that. So the TX Relay API is built to create very highly optimized gasless swaps and just provide the very best execution quality that people can get without having to think about it at all.
Right.
So yeah, we've seen this be pretty popular with a lot of the customers we've been talking to.
And then you and I talked a little bit before the talk started. So the API is not quite account abstraction. It is similar to what account abstraction promises to do, which is the idea that you can access all the aspects of somebody's account without necessarily having to get them to put in their passcode and everything. So I think you and I were getting ready to get into that before the call, and I said, no, wait until we get on the actual presentation. So walk me through how the TX Relay API is different from what account abstraction is supposed to be able to do.
Yeah. Account abstraction, I would say, is just much more generalized. Gasless transactions are like one thing you can do with account abstraction, but there are a lot of other things you could do, like social recovery and whatnot.
Sure.
The disadvantage to that is that you don't really get the optimizations that you can get with a very custom built solution for swaps. I would say the other downside is that account abstraction typically requires every user to deploy their own smart contract wallet that's compatible with account abstraction, which kind of Ethereum mainnet that can be quite expensive. So TX Relay API will offer just very highly optimized swaps. It's just tailored for a very specific use case. I would say that's the major difference.
Right. And the big news, and I think this was out maybe a week or two ago, is that Robinhood is going to be using it. Is that correct?
Yeah, they already are. You could go download it in the Apple Store. Yeah, it's a pretty slick application.
Yeah. And I don't know, tell me a little bit about what, if you can, what conversations with Robinhood have been like. I mean, for a big, consumer facing app to be kind of picking up the technology you guys have built is a huge validation for the tech.
Yeah, I mean they were definitely a very active design partner in building out TX Relay, right? Like I said, been talking to a lot of customers and seeing this problem of how it's like, okay, they have this captive audience of traders, but they don't really understand crypto, and they want to abstract as much complexity as possible. And yeah, we got a lot of that feedback from Robinhood as well. And yeah, pretty optimistic. I mean, it's still early days for the wallet for sure. I think it's they recently opened it up maybe a month or so ago. But yeah, I think the user experience is really amazing. You can kind of see the power of the technology.
Yeah. And then I wanted to say too that I've heard from a lot of builders during this current cycle that there's a lot of focus on, trying to reduce friction and just make it easier and more approachable for users to get involved in crypto. Which on the one hand is great because otherwise, how are we going to get more people in? But on the other hand, it almost feels like it's kind of like a badge of honor. Like if you've made it this far, if you're here now when it's still a little difficult, maybe kind of technical to be in the space. But talk to me about wanting to make all of this way more user friendly, way more accessible to people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the long run, we have to get to the point where pretty much like users are using crypto, but they don't really know they're using crypto. It just has to
Right.
be second nature. I mean, I've definitely seen people jump through hoops to use this technology when like they see there's a really good opportunity, but just can't really expect that to last forever. If we want this tech in the hands of billions of people, you just you need to reduce as much friction as possible, and that's what most of our products are focused on, honestly, right? There's just this huge web of complexity with several layers to making a DEX trade. I mean, the like flow of things that happen from start to finish is actually pretty insane. And then
Hmm.
you have all these different chains, all these different liquidity pools. Um, and yeah, we just want people to be able to use it without thinking about it. I think that's going to be really important. I think that's it's one of the main ways we differentiate too. Like our products are definitely very useful for the existing power users in the ecosystem, but we don't want to solely focus on that.
Sure. And then, so you guys are at the point now where you've got a wait list. So obviously Robinhood is already using TX Relay, but you kind of, putting together your list of other folks who are interested. Um, what's the inbound interest looking like?
Yeah, I would say so it's pretty good. I can't name names, but I will
Sure.
say that a lot of our existing integrators are interested, and a lot of the upcoming integrations will probably be using it as well. Also, so yeah, our kind of second major product line, which I didn't mention before, is Matcha. That is our
Hmm.
user-facing DEX aggregator powered by the same set of APIs that all of our other integrators use. There's some pretty big UX upgrades in the pipeline for Matcha, and it will also be one of the first integrators of TX Relay and really showcase what it could do. I think generally with these products, we also find once there are a couple of early integrators that like really show how it can be used, it like gives other
Hmm.
people ideas, and then it just like helps kind of spiral the adoption.
Yeah. Like once people know it can scale and it can handle
Yeah,
a lot
and
of
yeah,
volume, sure.
and yeah, and also yeah, for what it's worth, there's a wait list open right now, but it is not publicly available yet.
Right. Okay. And then I know when I touched base with you earlier this week, you also mentioned that there's some changes coming soon to the OX DAO. So I guess kind of quickly give us an overview of OX DAO, and then kind of give us a preview perhaps of like what's coming up.
Yeah. So 0x protocol and 0x DAO, that's kind of the third component of what we're working on generally. And we're actually probably one of the first protocols to introduce decentralized governance. But I would say the system today, it's a little bit dated. There are aspects of it that are not fully permissionless, not fully on chain, and this next upgrade is just really establishing a very strong technical baseline. So it will be fully permissionless to interact with. It'll be pretty much fully on chain. Token holders will be able to directly govern upgrades over the protocol as well as the DAO treasury, using a more modern architecture essentially. I think with DAOs, having that the technology that enables neutrality is very important, because people can trust that they're not going to get rugged essentially, right? And then from there, I think it just really allows people to, or it allows the community to really start building up and create a strong social layer around the DAO, which from my experience is actually the most important part in order to make DAOs effective.
Okay. And then I wanted to quickly ask, it's a regulatory question. I kind of hate that I have to talk about regulation every crypto conversation I have, but it's impossible not to right now. It feels like regulators have started to kind of put DAOs in the crosshairs here too. No one is safe right now in this current market. I'm curious to know, do you worry at all about the future of DAOs and whether or not they're going to continue to be a viable way to, run projects in crypto?
I'm not too worried about it. I feel like in the long run, everything tends to work itself out. And I think this is not the first time that crypto has kind of been in the regulatory crosshairs, right? I think we will certainly get past it. I think there probably will be very real considerations around structuring DAOs, and how they kind of evolve over the next few years. I definitely don't think DAOs should be trying to do anything that would be illegal to do outside of a DAO. I think you should be very aware of what they're doing, and I think that was one of the issues with the BZX case, right? So I think just in the short term, token holders do need to kind of be smart about what they're doing and what they're proposing. And I would say our DAO has been on the conservative side so far. So
Sure.
I'm not too concerned about it.
Okay. And then I know we're getting down close to when this session was meant to end. So I'm curious to know, do you have any predictions for what you think we might see in the DeFi space in the coming months? Just broad strokes, obviously not too specific.
In the coming months, good question. I think one thing I'm excited about is this idea of order flow auctions, where when you make a DEX trade, as I mentioned, there's kind of this whole supply chain of layers it needs to get through before it is finally mined.
Right.
And in that process, there are a lot of different actors, and some trades can have MEV extracted from them. So users are not getting the exact same price that they were quoted, essentially. And there are several teams working on solutions for this, where you could essentially have searchers be bidding on transactions and giving all that value back to users. So I think it's like pretty cutting edge, pretty early days for the technology, but I think there's a good chance we start seeing it in the next couple of months. And I think in the long run, like most of that value will just end up back into the hands of users. And yeah, I'm excited about that.
Very cool. I don't know, Ed, do we have any questions from the audience? I want to make sure I leave time.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Obviously,
Let me jump back in here. Can you guys see me okay?
Yes, obviously we've got
Great.
questions from my cat.
Oh, good. We have an extra panelist that we didn't even consider here, the cat. All right, so we do have one question, which is, and this is more of a broad question, I guess. So feel free to jump on it if you think if you have a good answer to this. But here's the question: what is the number one major blocker to mass adoption of crypto? This is mass adoption of crypto right now, especially regarding the onboarding process of users. What do you think?
Yeah. I think well, first of all, I will say I do think there are potentially problems outside of onboarding. But if I'm just focusing on onboarding, I think just the fact that people have to like go download a wallet, manage their private keys themselves, they're not necessarily out of the box solutions for like really good private key management. And I think that's really scary for most people. If you want to put like large sums of money into crypto and self-custody yourself, it can be very daunting. So I think solving the key management problem, and then also in the long run, like, maybe there are things that don't require you to actually download a wallet at all, right? It's like built into your phone's OS or something like that. I think those two things will, really help onboard like many, many, many millions of people.
Yeah, it is increasingly sounding like from you and other people I've talked to about this that it's really going to get, I want to say, as easy as using a banking app, but I don't even want to pretend that many of the banking apps I think are very good. So easier, hopefully, than using most banking apps.
It may be as easy as a neobank app instead of
Sure.
a traditional bank app, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
More like it.
Amir and Stacey, thank you for your time today. It was great. It's a privilege to have both of you here, and we learned a lot, so thank you. If you enjoyed what you learned, please consider donating to charity at hacksummit.org. And we're actually about to jump to a session with Zapper, which is a platform for discovery of wallets and for tracking your assets on chain. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion, and we look forward to seeing you there. So I will be right back with Zapper. Stay tuned, everyone. And thanks again, Stacey, and thanks again, Amir.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Stacey.